Hello to the folks who are just joining us and hopping on. We're going to give it just a minute here to let a few more people join us, and then we will kick off our monthly webinar for Evolve Electrical users. All right, thank you everyone for joining our monthly Evolve user webinar. Now, usually this session is on the last Thursday of every month. Obviously, we've had to push it back a week just due to some conflicting schedules here at Evolve. But don't worry, we'll still be having the March one on the last Thursday of this month as well. So thank you everyone for your patience. Today, we are going to demonstrate a few features, go over common questions that we hear, and of course, we'll be taking your questions live today. If at any point a question comes up, or if there's something you've been, working on that you're struggling with, please use the Q&A function in your Zoom toolbar to submit your question. And this webinar is being recorded, and you can always find all of our webinar recordings over on the Evolve YouTube channel. All right, and with that, I am passing it on over to Alex Siebert to kick us off today.
Awesome. Thank you, Marina. Well, don't have too much to cover for today, but I do want to highlight Evolve University and our weekly office hours, as you can see on your screen. So Evolve University, for those who don't know, is a training assistance platform that we have. It houses training videos and forums as well. It is free of charge for all customers, so please sign up for that. I'm also dropping my email here in the chat for everyone, so please reach out to me, or this QR code will take you to a form that you can fill out as well. And then we also have our weekly office hours every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So during those meetings, we go through some tools, we answer some questions, and it's basically kind of like our monthly webinar, but a little bit more focused on helping our customers. So if you do have any questions, please drop in on the weekly office hours. We would love to talk to you guys. And with that, I will pass it over to Jason Earl.
Thank you, Alex. All right, let's see here. All right, so we're coming up close to the release of 7.4. So most of the time we're going to spend today, we're going to talk about the new features, and we're going to demonstrate some of those. Now, we did go over some of these last month, but as we've gotten closer, more of those are kind of in the beta build that I've got to show to you guys. And so let's kind of jump into it. First, we'll kind of go through the new features here. This first one, auto route on pathway tool. This one, this is auto route. So I'll be demonstrating this one today. We'll demonstrate that one last. I think everybody's going to be pretty excited to see that one, and we'll just do that last because I think there's going to be some questions about that, and that'll roll us in really nicely into Q&A. Over here, the quick offset tools. So let's take a look at that one. Quick offset. That's going to be here in the quick tools. That's a quick tool. So what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to place an offset into, most commonly, it's going to be a conduit or a cable tray. It does also work with pipe and duct. The first question may be, is it a smart bend or is it a Revit bend? It's going to place Revit bends. So that's going to be more applicable to cable tray. In the future, that may place in a smart bend. You may have the option, I should say, or there may be a new feature that winds up over there. But for now, it's placing in a Revit bend. So in our case, it's going to be a stub 90 elbow, and it's going to be an angled bend. So to get using this, we'll have a piece of conduit. We can also do this with multiple at once. I'm just going to do one for this demonstration. The first thing that we're going to do is select our offset type. So how do I want to offset? Do I want to change elevation? Do I want to do a lateral offset that's going to be horizontal? Or do I want to do both? And that would be a rolling offset. From there, I need to pick my offset values. So how do I want it to go up or down, left or right, how far, etc. You'll notice in here some of these are grayed out. That's because they're not relevant to the offset type. So depending on what offset type I select, I'll have different options. When you get to using this, you may notice it's different by view as well, because depending on the view that you're in, there's different context. So you'll enter, different options will be available, essentially only requiring you to provide the absolute necessary information. So there's no extra kind of clicks or data entry there. I'm going to start here with a horizontal offset. That'll just be the most visible here in a plan view. So let's say I want to go over 8 inches. We can do that. And then we have our settings here. The first one here, angle. So this is, right, what angle do I want this offset to be on? So we'll let this be at 30. And then we also have this edit specific angles button. The way you can think about this, these are fallback angles. So I've got a 2-inch conduit here and I'm going to make an 8-inch offset. I should have no problem getting that 8-inch offset in on 30 degrees. However, if I was doing a 2 or 3-inch offset, that would not fit here with 30 degrees, right? My elbows are going to be running into each other. So these are angles that we can fall back onto if the angle we want is not there. So, let's say, hey, we don't like doing 22.5 here. We just like doing 15 or 10 or maybe as low as 5. So those will be our like fallback. I could have other ones higher even if I wanted. But for the context here, this is what makes sense. So we're going to go with these kind of fallback angles or specific angles. All right, there's 2 other options here. Isolate elements in temporary view. That will just isolate the ones when you select them. So once I hit OK here, it's going to prompt me to select some elements. If I have this option on, it's going to temporarily isolate them. That can be useful if you've got a very crowded view, to kind of save you a little bit of time and frustration there. That can also help in 3D views as well. Continuous placement. So when this is on, it's not going to pop up the options here again. I can just keep going and going. But if I want to change, but I want to keep doing offsets, I can turn this off. So that's up to you. All right, so I'll hit OK. So you'll notice I can make a selection box here. So I can do multiple elements at once. I'm just going to do one at a time here for this. So I've got my conduit selected. We'll hit finish. And then this is where kind of the neatness of it all comes in. So where do we want to place the offset? It's wherever we click. So let's say I click back here. And then we say select the quadrant to offset to. So notice we didn't say, hey, I want it to offset back and up the page or to the right and down the page. That's going to be based on our clicks. So if I want my offset to go up here, I'll just click up there. And now my offset is over here. So we could do it again here. Click. This time we want it to go down. It's a very, very quick way to place in an offset. Now, if you're using prefab bends, this may not be the fastest way to get those smart bends in because you could go and convert to smart bend, but that may not be the fastest way. So you can try this out, see how you like it, see if it's faster. But where this is really going to make life really nice is with cable tray. So if we insert an offset here, I'm going to keep the options the same, and I think we'll actually find this time that the 8-inch is not going to work on 30. So we'll see what we get. I haven't tested this one, so we'll find out what we get. All right, so I'll go down and to the right. Actually, we'll go down and to the left this time. We'll see what we get. All right, so here we have our offset placed in. So this is going to be much nicer, right? The alternative to this is we slice. Maybe we gotta, I think if we're in the right version, Revit won't heal this. We can rotate this, say 15 degrees. Bring this down here so I can connect it. Trim it together. Okay, we got that. Now we got this. Okay, now I said I wanted an 8-inch offset. That's what I'm planning to do. So now I'll make a dimension here. Oop, well, that's off a little bit. Okay, well, we can change this to 8 inches. So that's how you would really have to do this currently, or you would have to draw it out, already knowing that I'm going to make an offset here. You'd have to draw it out at the right angles. It's very difficult to draw a specific, height. You're specifying your angle when you're drawing. So big time saver here for cable tray, especially if you're kind of just drawing out your route and then coming back and adding in your directional changes. All right, so that is quick offset. There is also connect offset. This one's pretty neat. So if we take over here, so if we have two disconnected elements, we can do connect offset. And then again, we've got our angle and our fallback angles, or specific angles. And then we'll select the stationary angle, or the stationary element, excuse me. Then we'll select the other one. Again, we could select multiple at a time, and then we're going to place it in an offset. So if you don't know exactly, what offset you need to place in, get your two pieces where you want it, and then let Evolve kind of calculate what needs to go in there. All right, so we've got that. All right, so let's kind of keep going down the list here. So that's the quick offset tools. All right, and next up, this one, we're only going to demonstrate the ones highlighted in yellow, but I'll go through all of these. We added an option to include linked elements when isolating via selection filter. So you can now query linked elements or include linked elements in isolation for those selection filters. This next one here, automatically highlight rows and grids that have errors. So if we take, I think if we place a point here, we can create an error. So we'll get rid of that point ID. All right, if I open my point manager now, so before, all you would have over here on the pending action and error message is that there's an error. Not always super visible, especially if we don't have this checked. And then we do, I think, this. So if we had something like this. So if this is how you kind of have your grid set up, you may not even see that there's an error. So we added this box here when there's an error. It just makes it much more visible, and also just makes it visually easier to trace out, across the row when you have a lot of columns. So the conduit run schedule is one that comes to mind. So that's a small little quality of life enhancement there. All right. The next one here is add compare data shortcut button to feature grids. I'm not going to demonstrate this, but I will show off compare data. It's kind of a little known tool. We added it a few versions back. It's a very useful tool, though, if you're the person at your company that builds, tags, schedules, or otherwise kind of works with parameters. So if we open this tool, I think it's the only, I could be wrong, but I want to say this is the only tool with Evolve where it runs kind of in the background, where you can keep running Revit while you've got it open. So what this tool does is I can select elements, and when I do it, it loads them into this this tool here. So I'm going to select a couple elbows. So you can use it a few different ways, but what it does is it's showing me all of my elements and all of my parameters. Evolve does use some hidden parameters. Revit also may have some hidden parameters. You can find all of them in here. Where the compare comes into play is distinct values. So if you're setting up schedules, having an example of things that you want included, this can be very helpful creating those filters. You can search for parameters by using this little filter icon. It makes it very easy to search. And then we can go and select our parameter. So nice little tool there. Great utility for those that are working with parameters. Okay, the next new feature here, or new enhancement, I should say, is adding an option for users to choose which 3D view is used for hanger placement. This change or enhancement is really meant to allow users to optimize for performance in large models, especially very large models. So let's kind of look in here, and then we'll kind of explain a little bit more about what this is and when and why you would use it. So by default, it's going to come in and it's going to say default behavior. So if you've never kind of worried about how fast hangers place, or if you don't work with super large models, then you can kind of tune out with the rest of what I say about this. But default behavior is just what it's doing currently. And if you hover over it here, it'll give you a description of that. So I believe what it is, it's using the existing view to clash and for attachment. So if you have the structure visible in your current view, it's going to utilize that structure. If not, then essentially the tool's not aware of it. So all things considered, if you've got it visible, this is going to be a rather fast execution method. The next one here, use unfiltered view. This is the, hey, I want the safest option. An unfiltered view is we're going to temporarily create a view, make sure everything's visible in that view, and then we're going to place hangers. So that guarantees that your structure is going to be visible, and that if you're using collision detection, all the elements are visible for clash detection as well as collision avoidance. So this is going to end up being the slowest option. However, it's going to give you the most accuracy. If you want to think about it like that, these options allow you to do kind of a trade-off between speed and accuracy. The next one here is prompt on execution. That is going to prompt, it's going to ask me, hey, when I run hangers, I want to choose, sometimes I want to use the default behavior because that's my current view. Or maybe, hey, I know right now I don't have the structure visible, so I'm going to let it use an unfiltered view. Or I'll choose my own view. So that brings us to the next option or kind of group of options. I can also specify a view to use. So I can create a view that has only what's necessary for the hanger placement. For those working in very large models, or I should even say just large models, especially working on large teams where, you kind of want to make the decision for people, this is going to be the best option of speed and accuracy. You're going to get both with this, or the best trade-off. So the intent here is what you would do is I would create a 3D view, and I would make, in this view, I would turn off all my links except the structural one, and then I would hide any kind of unnecessary elements, right? Because Evolve has to open that view to get all the geometry for the collision, and opening that view is what can take so long. So if the view is already created, and it's not super heavy with tons of links and unnecessary work sets, you're going to get the best trade-off. So that's what the placement view does down here. There's a little description if you hover over the default behavior. I believe if you change it, it also has a tooltip there as well. So that's the placement view change. That one is going to make hangers a lot faster for people in large models if you take advantage of this feature. All right, this next one is ability to limit data profiles to select features. So if you're a heavy user of the utilities, you're most likely using quite a few data profiles. This just helps you organize those data profiles better. Added support for non-parallel connectors and connect elements. So previously, when you use connect elements, the connectors have to, be able to kind of drag to each other. This will allow you to select non-parallel elements. One of those elements will have to rotate. So just be aware of that when you try that out. Enhanced multi-selection method. Actually, I should have highlighted this one. I'm going to show this one off. All right, so hopefully a lot of people will like this or will have encountered this. Let's put, let's see, where is my family browser? All right, so I'm going to put let's say I'm going to put a kick in here. All right, so if we convert this, we'll turn our couplings on. So this is, I kind of want to show you why we decided to add this. All right, so if I go and I define a spool and I select this and I select these, I've selected this bend. However, it's not very apparent, right? It didn't really turn blue. These ones did. The reason behind this, it's how Revit handles selection. We're using Revit's selection method. There's not really much we can do about this specifically. So it's not the best, right? It's not ideal. It's not super clear what we're selecting, but that's what we've had up until now. So what we've got now is if you go into the workstation settings, there is a new section in the workstation settings for selection prompt enhancements. Actually, that section's already there. You'll just have this pop-up location. So that's the new kind of description of kind of what to do. What's new in this section is enable experimental selection method. The reason this is labeled experimental is because the way that it's implemented, it may not work for all users depending on your computer hardware or software. It should work for everybody, but our development team said that it can't be guaranteed because of the way that they had to implement it. So it's something that you'll have to opt into. But I think once you see how it works, most people will want to opt into it. However, if it doesn't work for any reason on your computer, because it's experimental, you can just opt back out of it, and then you'll have the default behavior, which is guaranteed to work because we're just using Revit for that. So I'm going to choose orange for my selection color here. So you can change your color, so whatever your preference is. So depending on, if you're using in one of the newer versions of Revit, you've got dark mode or your background is black. You probably don't want to use black as your selection color. Select your color. There's even more colors. You can build your own custom color here. All right, so I've got a color selected and we've got this turned on. We'll keep PowerShell enabled. Not that that's relevant. All right, so let's go define our spool now and let's kind of see how this looks. Oops. All right, so right now you'll notice here, I can't move this box. That will be changed when we release. You'll be able to move this around. So don't don't fret over that. All right, so now when I select things, they're very visible orange. While I've got it on multiple, if I go and I select things, one thing you probably also noticed, hey, if I change my selection, if I do a new box, it erases my old selection. The logic here is a little bit different. If I select things, it adds to it. If I select them again, it's going to remove them. So that makes it really, really nice. We really think this is a great improvement on selecting things. We can switch over to single, and I can easily remove or add individual things. I can come back over to multiple. We just believe this is a superior selection method. However, it is experimental because it is possible that it may not work for some users. All right, so that's how it works. Really excited for that one. Can't wait to hear how people are liking that. All right, The next one here is element slice. So let's take a look at that one. All right, so I've got some conduit runs set up. So what this slice element does, if I click on it and I click 2 points on, I believe any system family, it'll work on cable tray, it'll work on conduit and other system types. It creates a gap. So that's the equivalent of using the split element, placing 2 couplings, and then deleting it. So you might ask, why did we put this in here? What use is that? I mean, yeah, I have to do that, but it's only a couple clicks. What makes this really nice is in combination with SmartBend multi-trim. So this is where combining tools together is really going to make life easy. So the default mode for this is single selection, but if we hold shift and click on it, we can do multi-selection. Actually, let's turn this off just for convenience here, so it's not staying in the middle of my screen. Again, that will not appear in the center on release. All right, so let's slice some elements, and let's hit shift when we do it. All right, so I'm going to select really everything in my run. This is just kind of a short portion of a run. All right, and I'm going to break it here and here. So what I've done is I created a gap for my bends because I'm going to put kicks in here. So these are at 9 foot. I'll go up to 9'6". And then I'm going to use my SmartBend multi-trim. And I'm going to throw those in there. And then I'll have my kicks in here. So this is a really, really nice tool in combination with SmartBend multi-trim. We could do the same for offsets. What can also be nice about it is if we take, let's hold shift again. We can kind of make, oops, oh, it won't let me select those. That's interesting. I'll have to look at that. But we can kind of make 2 gaps here, and then we can rotate this or do as we will. So there's more than one application, but the inspiration for this was really to kind of pair it with SmartBend multi-trim. So that's one of the new features. Next up in here, we've got element filter supports querying section views in selection mode. This one I want to make a note of. Let's see, element filter. Let's look at one of these real quick. Okay. We'll kind of skip past that. The main thing to know here is that you can use section views now in element filter. If you have any trouble getting it to work, there may be some kind of asterisks on how you go about it because of how it had to be implemented. If you run into any trouble, just reach out to support. We'll be happy to help. And then we'll be providing some documentation on that. The next one up here, add option to append rather than import or rather than overwrite when importing data table entries. So that's an enhancement with data tables. Data table tools, open source. I showed this one last time. The main thing to know here is if your company is using SQL and there is data in that SQL database that you would like to bring into Revit, reach out to us. We can help you configure and use this tool. It's certainly an advanced tool. It's actually open source. It's really made for developers and companies that are kind of integrating development resources with Revit. The next one here is add support for create view parameter on sheet view family. This one, I'll actually mention this one as well. Let's see, do I have, let's import a family here. Actually, let's open one. Let's see, so this is going to deal with spooling. And let's see, 2022. And we'll see if the content is in here yet. All right, let's see if it's in here yet. All right, so it's not in this yet, in this development build. What you'll notice in the live build, your view window is not going to change. There will be a new update to the view window. So if you want this functionality, you'll want to replace your view windows with the new view window. Currently, there's a place on sheet parameter. What we're doing is we're adding an extra parameter called create view. So you'll have the options with your spool views, whether or not you want to create them, and then whether or not you want to place them on the sheet. Why might you use those? You may want to create a view, but not place it on the sheet because you're not typically going to use it. You may grab it if you need it, but then when you clean up your model and you purge, you want to be able to delete those unused views. So it makes model maintenance a little bit easier, and it gives you another tool in your toolbox when you're working with really large models. So we've got that there. Include additional columns in assign run grid to match existing run schedule columns. So when you do assign run, you'll have some more columns in that drop-down menu. It's just to make it easier to sort and kind of view the run information. The element swap tool, we're going to come back to that one. I'm going to demonstrate that one with auto route on pathway tool. We did look at this last month, but that one was kind of created with auto route, and that'll all make sense once we look at auto route kind of towards the end here. We added a clear global values report function. All I'll really say about this is we've been doing a lot of work with reports internally. If you're interested in the reports, we do offer report creation as a service. We also have many example reports. Take a look at the sample files. And we also have some videos if you're interested in learning how to do the reports yourself. There's plenty of documentation there, but there's a lot of exciting things going on with reports. All right, the last one here, add a notice of potential errors when manually modifying data profiles to configuration dialog. We just added this because a lot of the default things that we load in, if you haven't set them up already, utilize data profiles. We just want to make it clear to users, hey, if you don't know what this is, just be sure that you know what you're changing. So just kind of a little warning there. All right, now for the changes. We added conduit bend totals to the run schedule. So I think this is going to be a really popular one. Let's take a look at that, and then I'll kind of show you how it's working. All right, so when you open the conduit run schedule, you're going to see a bend angle. I'm not sure, but I think if your runs don't load when you open the conduit run schedule, you may have to load runs to get those bend angles. And I believe it will also be in conjunction with this here. So there is an option, enable automatic conduit run schedule angle calculations. So be aware on large models, this will affect performance if you've got really long conduit runs. We have to query the conduit run to calculate the angle. So it's automatic by default, but you can turn it off. So just be aware of that if you're working in large models. All right, so how does it work? If we open the right manager here, click the right button, well, we can see it. All right, so looking in here, we've got the bend angle. You'll notice there's a bend angle here in modeled runs. So in parallel runs, you could check and make sure that they all have the same bend angle. Most likely they should, or they should be very close. But you'll notice here, this bend angle I've assigned to this run. Now, if you look at this run, there's a break here at the junction box. I've used continue run. And if you look at the overall run, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 90s in this run. So 5 times 9, that's 450 degrees, but my bend angle here is only showing 270. So what's going on? What does that mean? Let's take a look. So if we look at this run here, my run is comprised of 2 segments. One right here at the top, and then one at the bottom. And I've got a pull box in between. So if you've got multiple segments, we're assuming that you broke it apart because you've got a pull point. If we look in the actual segments, we can look here. We can see the run angle. So in case, let's say you were saying, hey, yeah, I did continue run, but I didn't do it because I've got a pull box. Like I need to know the full run length. Well, you can see it. It's the conduit run angle here. You can actually add this to the conduit run schedule as a column if you need it. So we calculate the overall angle, and sometimes you want to know that because it's, hey, yeah, it's over 360 for the full pull, but I know I could still pull this without going to the junction box and pulling it there and then looping it through. So we're giving you the full run angle, and then we're also giving you the segment angle. So that segment angle, if you're using those pull points, that's going to be what's important for making sure you're within code, that you're at 360 degrees or less. And it's now in the bend angle column up here. So nice enhancement there. There may be some error condition highlighting coming for that in the future, but keep your eyes posted for that. All right, conduit run schedule import validates system and type. So I believe to some degree that was going on. So there's an enhancement there with that. Allow point manager to use project defined sites. So this is only going to affect people that understand or know, recognize this. If you're managing your coordinate systems or your sites in Revit in a similar fashion to this is going to be relevant to you. What most people do is they've got one, they set it on their survey point, and you're good to go. But if you're using multiple, this may be useful. So if we come into the point manager here and we go into our settings, you'll see now in survey point, there's a drop down here. So from the survey point, you'll select which coordinate system you want to use. So this is essentially like how you would configure the survey point typically when you're choosing what coordination or what coordinate system you want to use. If you're only using internal, it will already, that will be the only option. You don't have to worry about this. This is really if you're using multiple coordinate systems for your survey point, and the one you normally use is not the one that you have set in Revit, or not the one that you export points by. While we're on this, the other change here is export options. So we added the option to append some information to the file name. You can append the origin selection to the file name. Hey, this gives us a QA/QC check. Make sure we exported by the right origin. So you can do that if you like. You can append the date to the file name. So if you want to easily know, hey, when was this exported? You can do that. If you want the time as well, if you need kind of that specific information, you can do date, time, one or the other, or both. So you've got those options now as well. All right. The next one here, enhance point auto numbering to include tokenized parameters. What this means is you can number points with a parameter. It will pull information from that parameter from the point, similar to how that would work with spools, the way you can use parameters in the naming of that. Cable schedule adds setting for pushing run information. This we found out about from users. If we look, there's now a refresh cable data option in the cable schedule. This would be useful if you say started using this and you changed the device ID or you changed your makeup links mid-project. You can go ahead and refresh that, and it's going to refresh all that information. So quality of life enhancement there. Let's see. Switch to faster method for determining sleeve structural elements. That's going to be internal. You may or may not notice a speed improvement, just depending on the structural elements that you're dealing with. Add open created sheets option to locations and packages. So now you'll have that button there that you have in spools or in the prefab manager. Added connection tolerance to reconnect elements results dialog. I believe by default it may be set on 0 or sometimes it's at 0. So this just lets you see what it is. So you know, hey, if nothing connected, I know what my tolerance is. Add support for more categories to cable routing. This is an interesting one. Previously, there was only so many categories that were compatible with the route cable function. We added more. Namely, one of those is lighting fixtures. So if you're interested in doing in-wall cabling, you can customize, you can add connectors to a lot of different families to route MC cable to them. If you need help setting those up, we can help you set those up. We've got an informational video. Reach out to us if you need any help with the in-wall cabling. We're happy to help. Add option to limit report designer data rows. If anybody's creating reports, if you're doing it with a large model, this just makes it quicker to build and test your reports. This last one here, move duct spacer tolerance setting to project level configuration. I won't go too in-depth into this, but if you notice in the drop down here, it'll also show up in settings. There's a duct spacer settings now. If you use duct spacers, it also appears in here. And what you'll notice is that the tolerance and rounding are no longer here. We put them in here. Oh, the rounding are still there, excuse me. We put the tolerance in here. This was a change to make the configuration IDs work. That's a hidden parameter. Essentially what this is for is, you can think of it as it's keeping the data the way it needs to be, so that when you export these, they're all kind of working off the same sheet of music. That one's a little hard to explain, but it's an improvement. It works more like it's supposed to now. All right, so there's also fixes. I'm not going to go through all of these. I've got a couple in here. I think I'll just mention these. I won't actually show these, but these are the ones I wanted to mention. We fixed sheet generation scale to fit option not working correctly. Sometimes the scale to fit, the views would not fill up the entire box. It does now scale properly. So if you've noticed that, that's something we've fixed. SmartBend multi-trim error. In some scenarios, when you would do a kick with the SmartBend multi-trim, it would throw an error. I know that was frustrating for me when I saw it. If it frustrated you and you stopped using the tool because of that, give it another visit. We fixed that. So that's working now. Stop kick 90 from being flipped in the wrong direction. I believe that was also with the SmartBend multi-trim tool. That's now fixed as well. All right, so on to the kind of big ticket item here, auto routing. So let's talk about that. All right, so I've got a model set up here. This is a really simple example, just to kind of show you, you know, what the tool is, what it does, how to use it. All right, so the first thing that I would do kind of in this workflow, right? Because what this is going to do is it's going to build a workflow. What we're doing is, it's really 3 key steps. The first key step is, well, maybe it's 4, but we'll just let it be the number it is. All right, so the first step is either I need to place all my equipment or I need to create my run schedule. So either way I need to do those. The order is not important. I've got a run schedule in here. And what's really important in here is the start and the finish. So I've got Fin 6, 101 here. The start and the finish is, right, if Evolve is going to automatically populate your conduit, right, we need to know where it's coming from and where it's going to. So the conduit run schedule handles that. And then the equipment, wherever it's got that information in here, I think equipment ID. So it's got that information. So we need to know, hey, where is your equipment located? And then what is it labeled, right? That's kind of the minimum information that the tool needs to work. Now, the next kind of question is, all right, well, what path or what route are the conduits going to take? Well, that's up to you. The way that you'll do that is with our pathway family. That's been around for a long time. You've probably never used it because electricians never get to claim space. We're always kind of forced to move. But where that's at is in our system families here in the pathway tab. So you can load that into your project, just load types. It's this pathway family. When we look at it, it's a duct system family. We're not really concerned about all of this information. We're just concerned really with the geometry. When you draw this duct, you don't need to worry about the height and the width. We're essentially using the center line. I'm not sure if we align to the top or the bottom of it. We can take a look when we place these, but we really just need a pathway, right, for these conduits. I don't have it drawn in this model. Let's see if we can get it to do it. If we go here, and then we go here. Oh, I am not good at drawing duct, so I'm butchering this. There may not be a four-way cross here. Oh, because I think, all right, so I know you can put T's. I'm not 100% sure about crosses. I'm not sure if crosses even make sense with duct, but you can put T's in here. This example here only has kind of one path, but you can put T's in this. All right, so we've got this simple example. So just to summarize before we place these, key pieces of information: equipment placed, pathway placed, equipment has itself labeled with the equipment ID, and I've got my run schedule loaded in. So that's kind of all the input things that we need or Evolve needs to be able to route the conduit. So now when we look at place conduit run, when we actually go to use this, we're going to click on a piece of the pathway. So in my case, it'll be this one. And then I'm going to select my runs. Before we show that, there are some settings. So let me kind of show those real quick. This may look a little bit different by the time we release, but this is what's in here now. This maximum side branch length, there will be a setting for, hey, how far can we come off? At a certain point, right, you know, you just didn't draw a pathway there. You selected the run by mistake. We're not going to draw it across the building for you. So that just gives you some control over that. Spacing here. What is the spacing that you want between your conduits? Equal spacing or edge to edge? How far do you want that spacing to be? So when spacing comes up, the question may be, well, how many tiers is it going to place? Can it place tiers? No, currently it does not place tiers. If I place 10 runs here, it would expand beyond the pathway. They're all going to be flat. So you'll need to rearrange them how you want them tiered. Or you can place, hey, I know I want these on my bottom tier, then move your pathway up 6 inches or 4 inches, whatever it may be, and then place the next ones. So some of the workflows, they'll develop over time once people start to get their hands on it, and we'll be able to kind of recommend the best way to use it. But just be aware, it does not handle tiers. It may in the future. We do plan to improve this tool over time. You may also notice some bugs or some cases where it doesn't work. This is a very large feature on our end, and we'll be, as always, listening very closely, and working very hard to improve the tool and support as many scenarios as possible. All right, start and endpoints. So when I talked about that equipment ID parameter earlier, if you use a different parameter, you can set that here, right? If you use your company specific parameter, you can change that. There's an element filter. It's not set by default, but you can filter your start and endpoints. So if you have other equipment, that can just make that a little cleaner if you kind of run into some situations where you had a little uh-oh. All right, limit to current view. In my case, this is all I've got in the project, but if I had 10 floors, if I selected the entire conduit run schedule, I could do that. If I have limit to current view set, it's only going to do what's in the current view. If I do everything, it's going to try to run everything. However, it's only going to use the pathway I selected. So obviously every floor is not going to be connected. So that option is there as well. All right, so let's run this. Let's see what happens, and let's look at it. All right, so I've got this piece of equipment here. I've got some other equipment here. These are actually kind of some home run assemblies. So these are actually technically boxes. So you could use this for branch as well. It doesn't have to just be equipment. A lot of different ways to do this. All right, so I'm going to hit place conduit run. I'm going to select my pathway, and then I'm going to select, I think it was these three. We'll see if I picked the right ones. I forgot at this point. And we'll place those. I did not pick the right ones. All right. So this being the development build, there's still a couple kinks we're working out. All right. So we placed these. It's going to tell me each one. These will all be in one dialog. You won't have to click through these when we release this. All right, but now I've got my conduits. So what happened here, right? So the conduits were placed, and we looked at the conduit run schedule, and we pulled some information from it. So we said, hey, what size should this conduit be? What type should it be? What conduit standard do you want? So we looked at that. We placed that. Parallel runs. Does it have parallel runs? Okay, well, we didn't have to worry about that in these cases. And then one really nice thing that it's doing here is it's applying our run IDs for us. So when we do this, we don't have to worry about applying run IDs. So now we kind of have the job of cleaning everything up, right? Of getting everything situated the way we want. So we may need to do some movement to connect it to our equipment, kind of bring it home, right? So here we've got it stopping right here. This is a really simple scenario where it's like, okay, it's pretty obvious, just, stub down to the equipment. A lot of scenarios aren't quite so simple. So we'll bring it to the equipment. You take it to the equipment the way that you want it. What we've also got here is these conduits are kind of tangled up. So we need to deal with that. That is what element swap was created for. At the end of the day, it just swaps two elements. You can use this for anything. But what it's really for is untangling these conduits. So I'll come in here. Hey, we know, whoops, we selected the wrong one. Let's try that again. All right, we know we need to swap these two. So we'll swap those. And now I need to swap these. And my conduits are good. So untangling these is actually really fast with the element swap. Don't let the, don't let the tangling of the conduits trip you up. Sometimes they come out really nice, sometimes they don't, but you've got a tool there to handle that. If we look at our conduits here, just to kind of make you aware, let's turn everything on. All right, so where it's placing it at the center of my duct. So if I wanted to do another tier now, I can move my middle elevation up 14.6. And now I can run my other three runs and I can have them be on the top tier. So yeah, it takes a little bit of thinking. If you want to do it that way, you can. Otherwise, just place them all and then untangle them the way that you want, doing the vertical and horizontal placement. All right. So with that, that is everything that I have to share with everybody today. So I'm going to stop sharing. We'll switch it over now, I think, to Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, definitely go ahead, type those into the Q&A, and we'll answer any questions.
All right, we've got a few more minutes left. Thank you so much, Jason, for going over all of that today. And if you have a question, please use the Zoom toolbar, the Q&A function there to submit your question. And you know what? I'm also going to put this slide back up for anyone who may be interested in joining. If you're not on Evolve University, I absolutely recommend that you get enrolled for that. It can be accessed anytime, anywhere from your computer. And we're constantly uploading new videos. So there's always new content to go check out over there. All right, looks like folks are dropping off and no questions coming through in the Q&A, so I will wrap us up. Thank you everyone for attending oh, here we go. We got a few questions. All right. John asks, do you have the cable schedule in Evolve University?
Yes, the cabling features, there are videos for those in Evolve University.
Awesome.
Let's see here. So we got one other question. Is the equipment ID on a numerical value? It doesn't have to be the parameter type. I believe technically doesn't matter. You would most likely use text. I believe that equipment ID was text. But there's no real requirement of the kind of format of the equipment ID.
Great, thanks. I see someone has raised their hand. At the time, we don't have the capabilities to have like an open forum, but if you want to submit your question in the Q&A, or you can always reach out to us. What would be the best email for someone to reach out if they had a more involved question?
So if anybody has kind of a question afterwards, you can always reach out to us at support@evolvemep.com. So you should see that email now in the chat. So you can always reach out to us anytime through the support email or through the website by going to the contact support page and then submitting a ticket that way.
Great. Thank you so much, Jason. Kevin asks, can multiple ducks be drawn for auto routing?
Yes, you can draw multiple ducks. So kind of how that would work is, you could populate all your kind of like sets of ducks. It's not, if you have let's say you have a piece of equipment and it follows out a pathway, and then you've got another pathway and they're not connected, it will not jump pathways. So you'll need a continuous pathway between pieces of equipment. But yes, you can absolutely have multiple pathways.
All right, great. Thank you everyone for contributing your questions, and for Jason, Alex, and the entire customer success team here at Evolve. Thanks again everyone for coming today. That's our time. So please make sure to follow Evolve on LinkedIn, YouTube, where you can keep up with the additional resources and webinars and events that we have available. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.